Right, we're back at Shrigley Engineering. He's actually built an Imp engine, which he's got the dyno. He's doing the operations now. He's just put it on the dyno, get a tune out of it. It's just been built, so he's getting the jetting sorted out. So, do you want to say a little bit about the engine, Andy, while you're doing that?
Yeah, just doing some friendly runs to make let everyone make friends inside. And yeah, I just thought we'd make a little video because it'd be fun.
Does an engine like that need running in then?
Yeah, it's all on big clearance compared to like a brand new road car engine, so it doesn't need as much time, but it is nice to creep up on them gently and get a chance. So all I'm doing here is I'm giving it wide open for a little bit. We're all on low RPM, so we're all down at 4,000. Look, quite a lot of load in the dyno, so it's pulling from say about 60 foot-pounds. 6,000 there, up to about 90 foot-pound.
Right, so that's the rev counter in the middle of the...
Yeah, the rev counter's in the middle. Should have cleaned the window, shouldn't we? And the torque in the blue letters is around the outside. The numbers on black lettering, that's like the dyno's numbers, but they don't mean anything. The ones in blue letters are foot-pound of torque. Well, it's only a little 1150cc engine, so it hasn't got any major power or torque. So it revs quite well, so it has about 120 horsepower in it.
How's it performing compared to normal Imp engines? Or is it hard to tell yet?
This is a really good one. This is like just give it a little rest for a second. This is an all steel, long rodded 1150 with the proper cam and head on it and all the right bits that make it a proper race engine. Really, it's all new. The only thing that's not new is the head casting and the cam cover box and things like that. Everything else, the carrier, the cam, the crank, the rods, pistons, liners.
So it's all quite bespoke. It's not something that it's not been tried before this.
So just the awful noise is the dyno shaft. It sort of resonates and gets a bit of a rattle on below 4,000 RPM. So the water temp's up now. Even though we've got the exchange unit on it, it's still up to like 75, 80 degrees there. So
how can you tell what the water temp is?
It's just got a little
I see on the
dial there that goes round. Yeah, there's literally a thermocouple stuck in the top of the header tank.
It works though, works and does what it's supposed to do.
I only do imps now, so it's easy for me, isn't it? Because I know what I'm expecting to see, and as you can see, we just went up on a jet size because we thought it might be a bit lean for the size of engine and the chunks in the jets it had.
I suppose you've done so many now, you know what's what, and you can hear and see and get a feel for it.
You can have lambda and you can have this and knock sensors and all the rest of it, but the best thing for shooting engine is a brain up there. And if it's doing the torque, it's happy, and if you look at the top of the head where the cam cover is, you see it start to breathe. You know the cylinder pressure is getting up, and that could be either too much advance or if it's getting heated it because it's going lean. You know, all them sorts of things. So you just get a feel for it. You know, I used to run lambda on everything, but if it was something like if it was your XE, which we can have a little chat about later, then yeah, that's different with potentially. Have the lambda set up, but obviously it would run back and close loop, wouldn't it, with your EC, DTA and everything.
Yeah,
so
that's more fuel injection, isn't it?
I haven't got that much experience in that. These love being rich. They're a funny thing. I don't know whether the fuel cools it, but on a lambda scale, they love being like to the 0.85, 0.88, whereas I'd imagine your 16 valve XE being a modern design, more likely to want to run like 0.9, 0.92 or whatever.
Can I just show the throttle that you're using?
Oh yeah. I rescued that from B&J's scrap bin. It had a right old good time, hadn't it? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But it's a bit of character. But I don't like them on what's the word for it? You know, like an electronic servo control.
Right.
A bit of control. I feel like I'm in contact with the engine.
With a proper cable going through. What? So, what's the idea? Is to keep it running, check it's all happy. Everything meshed in together.
Yeah, I'm meant to be doing things like this, but because I can't multitask when I'm talking to you, I just end up forgetting what I'm doing. But all we're doing is keep an eye on oil pressure, a little bit of torque, just ease it on and off. We're just basically letting everything make friends and loosen up and all the rest of it before we start putting some real load. Now, the exchange unit on this can only cope for a certain amount of time, so
that's the bit with the steam coming at the top.
Yeah, it's getting up into the 80, 85 now, so we'll just let him have a rest, probably knock him off it now.
Right.
But yeah, it's obviously it's not a proper dyno setup, is it? It's sort of and the homemade one.
But it suits your purpose, doesn't it? It's ideal for imps on in, imps off. I suppose it's a real pain when you've got an XC or something and you've got to change it all around and get it on.
I just changed the amount of water that goes through the heat exchanger for that. It's all on little valves, so we can just regulate the flow. If you look, there's a 1,000 litre water tank on the roof basically, and that'll be full of water when we do your XC. So we've got to put a lot of heat energy into that 1,000 litre water tank.
It's
just an IVC. And you can see the back, there's like a pipe coming down with a filter. That's the water coming down, and obviously that helps the dyno. It's just basically a water break, and then some of the water tails off and then goes through this heat exchange system, so we can keep a constant temperature on the engine. Right. What we'll do with yours is, because you're on an ECU, with a cold start cycle, we'll put a thermostat in the system, like a 70-degree start, so that the engine just runs at 70 degrees bang on all the time. Otherwise, if you freeze it, you can start having the ECU putting extra fuel in, thinking it's cold. You know? Right.
That's what I suppose also time if it's going to be warming up to get a map on it for a cold start.
It's going to be a pig to do, because this dyno is really hard to grab hold of things below sort of 3,000 RPM. So all we're going to concern ourselves with your XC, just turn this fan off. It's here actually. But, all we're going to concern ourselves with is wide open throttle, and just make sure that all them bits are correct.
Right.
And the advance and everything. And then when we come to Jersey, I'll sit in the car with you and we'll go for a ride.
I'll get it mapped
mate,
in the car.
Please don't video me, mate.
Sorry, mate. Well, just tell us a bit about this engine then.
This is Tim's 2-litre Vauxhall engine. It's been in the making for a while now, and it's a little bit different because, as you know, I don't like doing things that are normal. So it's actually a Frontera or an Omega engine. It's an X22 XE, so it's a little bit taller. And what we've done is, the rod to stroke ratio on these isn't fantastic. So I got a bespoke rod made for it, and basically it's a 2-litre steel arrow crank in it with some bespoke rods, and then we've kept it to the 2-litre class because there's no way we're ever going to be able to compete with the 2.5 class with the Millingtons and the Smith & Joneses and that. So you're better off. I'm hoping we're going to use like 859 with this.
Oh wow,
that's the dream. Yeah, and obviously.
Power wise, I suppose you don't know till it gets on the dyno. And...
Mate, no, I think realistically, if it does 250, 260 horsepower, I think they'll be going. I mean, you've got to spend a lot of money to make it. Bob's very kindly sold me some camshafts, and the head is ported, etc. and all the rest of it. That's the head there, is it? That's the head, actually. Yeah, that's the head. Right. So it's had a bit of work. Done a bit of a weird thing, like trying to try and get as much compression, because it's only a 2-litre, and I didn't want a massive intrusion on the piston, which it has got an intruder, but basically the piston comes proud at the top of the block, so we relieve the chamber. But by doing this, we get the full area of the piston into the chamber with only this loss of cc. So we should, I'm hoping, if I've worked it all out correctly, we're going to see about 13 to 1 on this. And is that something that's been done before, or is that something? That's a normal thing. There's nothing that's not been done before with these things, mate. I suppose, they're very popular. They're quite wilder cams, but you know, we'll just have to get a learn. If it's too high and it doesn't like it, we'll have to pull it apart. And the beauty of the thing like this is you can buy like 10 different head gaskets. You know, you can buy a 51 thou, a 60 thou, a 70 thou, an 80 thou. So we could just jack the head up with a gasket. We'd have to start getting Dremels out and machining things and all the rest of it. What's this for? Is that water? Yeah, it's just an old school XE manifold. That's because yours is upright, your engine, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. So we've got some 45mm throttle bodies in the box down here. With the coffee machine. That is the loom that I made. Yeah, fancy that in a minute. Well, slim one or the other on camera. So we've got some. These were just old school ones. Nice. Genvies. Yeah. A little bit of airing, weren't they? Got a nice flywheel there for you. What are they? 45s. Yeah, 45, yeah. But there's no choke in that, so it's 45mm straight through. It's big hole, that, you know. Right. It's only 2-litre, so... I suppose you don't need choke, do you, with the injection? No, it's going to be a massive learn, this. We'll get a good learn out of this and decide if it's, you know, it doesn't really matter because it's only for a bit of fun for you in Jersey, isn't it? Well, for you as well. And he's going to use the car. I'm supplying the car and he's supplying the engine. Yes, you might just see there's some marks in it. This hasn't actually been bored. This is the original 86mm bore, and it's 86 by 86, which is 1998 cc or whatever.
Is that square? Is that what they call
it? Yeah. They're great, these engines. I absolutely love these engines. They're such a good engine.
I always thought they'd be bigger than that. They're quite...
Like your BMW.
Yeah.
Just a strong, solid lump. Dead easy to build and do, aren't they? You just barrel the bits. And...
Is it beneficial then to have a steel block rather than aluminium?
Yeah, aluminium's a pain. It's great if you're like, you know, if you're going racing, but it's just a weight, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got to stop it, turn it, and accelerate it. But that engine is like, it's solid. It's not. We're not going to get to a situation where it can drop a liner and being 86mm bore and not 88 or 87.5, the bore will be dead. It's quite thick, so it won't balloon. It'll stay in good shape. You know, right. You'll get good cylinder seal. It'll be a good, strong engine, that. Because
they're very popular, aren't they, these engines? And I suppose people have tried all sorts. And so when they go 2.4, is that purely on the bore size? Or
no, they have mega stroke, but they'll probably have them in a tall block. But you probably find most of the 2.4s are done in the alley block, which will be as tall as this, if not taller, so they can get the rod to stroke ratio sorted out. Yeah.
Right. So they did do an aluminium block one.
They remake them.
Oh right.
And it's probably homologated for.
That's like Millington do.
Yeah. But you're into this is just all budget level, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, they're 30 grand or something, aren't they, for a Millington Vauxhall?
Yeah.
Oh, they do protrude quite a lot, don't they? Didn't the old Escorts used to do that?
I don't know.
CVH.
Oh right, with the rays on them. Yeah. And the Hemi, yeah, that was just to try and get some compression back.
So what's next on this then? What's involved to?
Pull it all apart again.
All right.
It's been together for about 2 years, so we're going to pull it apart again. We're going to put your wet sump on it that you've had made.
Right.
We ditch all the dry sump kit. We might have to do a bit of a cooler. We're going to do a remote oil filter on it. Obviously, I'll do a dry build, get a CC on it, see what the compression ratio is going to work out at. And then we'll get it snotted on the dyno, and what we'll do is I'll ring you when it's ready, and you can jump over on the ferry, and I'll leave it on the dyno, and you can make a video of us trying to rig it.
Nice.
On it. Obviously, I'll do a dry build, get a CC on it, see what the compression ratio is going to work out at, and then we'll get it snotted on the dyno, and what we'll do is I'll ring you when it's ready, and you can jump over on the ferry, and I'll leave it on the dyno, and you can make a video of us trying to rig it.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that'd be good. And when you say cooler, is that water oil cooler, Modine type thing?
I think so, yeah. We can do like, if you come in the dyno, then look at this one here. This is the one I like.
Oh, it's warm in here, isn't it?
Like a Moco.
Oh, right.
Run the cold water from the engine, from the radiator, through the cooler before it goes into the engine, and then this setup, I've done this loads, it runs at like rubber mounted, so it doesn't vibrate. It runs exactly 25 degrees hotter than the water, so if you run at like 80 on the water, about 105 on the oil.
Right.
Seems to be quite a happy sort of area.
What would it be normally then if it didn't have a cooler on it? Would it just keep going?
Well, I don't know. The oil that I like, the Miller's, it's good for 140 degrees apparently. But realistically, if you can keep it around 100, I think that's a safer area. It's just if you put a cooler on it, the old air to oil ones, they just suffer a bit. If something hits it,
the radiators, yeah.
It bursts. Not only do you run the chance of losing your oil and knocking the engine out, you also run the risk of hitting something because you've got oil over your back tyres. You know?
Yeah.
So with this, or use dash 10 or nice air proposers or whatever, there's no chance of any, or you're reducing the chances of an issue, aren't you?
Yeah, and less pipe work and less one radiator less, which I suppose would affect the water cooling radiator. If you've got an oil cooler in front of it, it's going to...
Yeah, these are straight through, so it doesn't slow them down at all. It's
right.
like a tube, and it has little serrations on the outside, and there's an element. But they're really good at exchanging the heat also. They're good.
But that wouldn't put the water temperature up at all?
It will do a little bit, but in theory, with a front engine car with a proper RAV, they'd have an abundance of cooling.
Right.
So you'd be using your Davis Craig electric water pump to control the water speed, to control the water temperature.
Right.
So
that ECU that I've just brought over, that controls an electric pump. I don't know how, but it's got a thing for it, for a fan and a pump.
Has it really?
Yeah, so it's like the controller that the David Craig thing has.
You'll have to educate me on that, mate.
I haven't got a clue. I thought you could read the instructions.
We'll just put a switch on the dashboard then for the time being.
Do you not do them with filters on?
We're just messing around now. We'll put the air filters on, and on this engine as well, we're really excited about it. The customer said that obviously they run abroad, and he said, I can't always hear the engine, like, would you make me a straight pipe? So I thought, we'll make him a megaphone. Look at that.
That's going to, that is mega.
Yeah.
That's going to be loud. No silencer.
No, just straight at the back.
Blimey.
Yeah.
Do they not have sound?
No, it's only our country that has the stupid rules, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose, but in America they're probably in the middle of nowhere, aren't they?
You being a scrutineer, you should know all about this.
Well, yeah,
You know.
I try and take.
Can you explain something to me?
Go on then.
Why is it when you go Donington Park and race, you have to wait for the Boeing 747 to go overhead before you have a noise test?
Do they test the Boeing 747?
No. They have to wait for the planes to pass every 30 seconds before they can do a noise test, and they're just like, yeah, don't zoom in on that, it's not finished yet.
No, but I'm just trying to work out, doesn't fuel go up here?
No, these are just the caps for the carburetors. It's just so it can change the jets.
I thought they were jets, so the fuel went through them.
No, it's a vacuum, so the bottom of the jet is in the float chamber.
Right.
And then halfway up the jet, you've got the emulsion tube, and then you've got the venturi, or whatever you want to call it, the pipes that go off in the carburetor. And then as the air goes through, it causes a depression, and that's what draws
like
the fuel.
Like a spray paint.
Yeah, it draws the fuel through the jet then. So the top half of the jet's just in atmosphere. It's in the top of the float chamber.
So normally when you have the caps on, do they have vents in them or something?
Yeah, what it does is they vent through here, because the biggest thing you'll find with people who put their own air filters on, sometimes they put these back plates on back to front.
Block the holes.
It blocks the hole and the engine won't run. It'll start up and idle, but that's about it, because the float chamber has to breathe or it won't let the air through, you know.
And you were saying that's Cosworth CV joint,
Yeah.
which is the same as on a BMW.
Is it?
E24
There you go.
or something, yeah.
Great minds think alike.
I don't know much about drive shafts, but I know a bit about them.
Right, wonderful.
Right, so let's...
You don't want too much imp stuff on your channel. You might lose some. Might lose some of your.
Engine's an engine, isn't it? And yeah, and Vauxhall as well. We're all going there, sort of diversifying a bit. So right, okay, we'll wrap it up there. And thanks for talking us through that, Andy.
Very welcome, Tim. It's always a pleasure to have you over.
And next time, the Vauxhall.
Yes, we'll do the Vauxhall next.
Nice one.